Man, what a fucking episode this was. I'm cutting this and I'm putting it in the beginning again. I'll say this is my favorite episode that we've ever done. This is a banger.
Really?
Yeah, I think this is my favorite. Also, shout out to all the people who rated 5 stars on Spotify, people who are subscribing on YouTube. The YouTube's grown significantly. Yeah, if you are on Spotify and you enjoy this and you feel like you get value from these episodes, please take the 10 seconds to hit those 3 little dots, rate the show. All right, thank you guys so much. Cutting back to the actual episode now. Oh my God. What are you grateful for today, brother?
I'm grateful to catch myself saying that.
Yeah.
I am grateful for you. Also grateful for a beautiful day.
Man, I was driving here and I was thinking, wow, what a beautiful, clear,
What a beautiful
crisp day. What a crisp day.
I love the seasons.
Yeah.
I'm getting so old, man. I think I'm approaching death. I'm like, appreciating the taste of the air and shit. Like when someone's released from prison after 50 years. So I do love, and here's something I'm going to hit you with.
Okay, hit me.
I don't know where I developed this. When people say it's a horrible day because it's lashing rain, I say, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just rain. And they're like, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, it's just rain. Like, don't set yourself up for a bad day.
Man.
Or remember this is a bad day. We only have so many.
There's like, do you know Doctor Strange has seen all the different possibilities?
Yeah.
You've given me like 5 topics that I want to explore right now.
Go, okay, wait, try flag them though. Okay, so you know what they are.
Yeah. Okay, you hit me with a little French saying the other day, brother. What was that?
Joie de vivre?
Something like that. And what did it mean?
It was like we're going to butcher this for anyone who doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it is something along the lines of enjoying the fact that you are experiencing every day, is it?
Yeah. I think that's what it was, just the joy of experience.
Yeah, it's not just like experiencing joy, it's like enjoying just experiencing.
That you're able to experience anything, the highs and the lows.
Yeah, that's how I took it anyways.
The connection,
you know, you only see a book like front cover and you're like, I love that idea. But you don't even know what it is.
I've done that with many books, and I don't plan on ever reading them either, because they gave me my own idea. Yeah. Man, that's like the whole Descartes thing. I think therefore I am. Yeah. Bro, I don't even care.
Know what he meant.
I don't care what he meant either, because I'm making my own story. Man, if he's able to think a thought and it is important, I'm able to think a thought that's important.
Man, he'd be happy that you was spawning ideas in your head, whether or not.
Yeah, exactly.
So long as they're not hurting anybody.
I think my thoughts are equally as useful as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back on some books on that topic. Yeah. The topic of just the joy of life and experience and impermanence. That was an idea I came across recently that, like, again, I feel these things sound so superficial, but the fact that whenever you're going through a good time, you know that it's going to be impermanent and there's going to be a downslope from that. And equally, whenever you're going through a tough time, you know there's going to be that impermanence where it's going to come good again. Just that idea. And then another really big one that I've been coming back to as of late is how, like, the connectedness of good and bad and desire. That's a big one. How desire is usually the root of suffering, and then coming back to the connectedness of good and bad, when there's something that we like really enjoy, you're almost setting yourself up for suffering at some stage afterwards, because there's going to be a disconnect where you no longer have that thing anymore. So then coming back to the idea of equanimity, where you can be at like a stable, solid place amidst the highs and the lows, acknowledging the impermanence of each of those stages and just being able to enjoy purely the experience of experiencing highs and lows. Yeah. So it's not that you can, and the frame that this is coming back through a lot of the times is through like spiritual ideologies and like the Buddha. But it's not that when you get to this stage and you're enlightened and whatever, that you never experience negative emotions. It's just that you can have that equanimity, that you can be stable despite the experience of suffering, quote unquote. Yes. Because you know that everything is impermanent. And it's a joy to just be able to experience in the first place.
Love that.
What a heavy concept.
I really like that.
And you can say it and it can come across superficially, or you can sit with it and it can have as much meaning as you allow yourself to delve into with it, I think. And the more experience you have, or the more you reflect on that idea, maybe, the more you can get out of it, I think. And then one of the other Doctor Strange topics that you opened up for me was the effect that the words we use have on our psychology,
Yeah.
and then what's going on in our brain, how that affects our perception of reality, but how we never have access to objective reality. All we can access is our perception of reality. So whatever we have going on in our mind is essentially what's going on around us. So the effect that the words that we use have on our experience of life.
Man, that even opens a topic that I'm not very well versed on, but I think I remember discussing it in university, and it was essentially, are your thoughts bound by language? Like, you can only think as much as you can say, almost. And like, then hence humans are only able to think within the bounds of like what they've said,
Yeah.
and what words and what concepts they've been able to describe using
That's
language.
What a mind bending.
And I'm sure like what comes to mind is like people with maths and music then are almost like pushing
the
further,
boundaries.
because it's like they're using things that aren't even words, but they're still using representations.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sure there are so many people, so many scientists, so many geniuses as we call them, that are actually experiencing gobbledygook in their mind, and they're kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but because I don't have language, but I know I'm feeling the outskirts of knowledge.
This is something that Lista says all the time.
Okay.
She's like, I can feel it in my brain in like shapes and colors, but I can't put it into words. That's crazy. Or that, what's called synesthesia. Pharrell has that, where you like, say when you, I can't even describe it because I don't know what the experience is, but it's like you hear music, but you also like see colors and you feel the experience of it. Yeah. That's insane. What an experience that must be.
What an experience. And I was even going to say, as you were talking, how complex of a computer of a brain we have, that I'd say is even more complex than any computer ever that's ever going to exist, because as you were talking, I was like hearing, I was taking it in, and I was thinking, but then my brain was showing me the podcast that I was watching and like scrubbing it backwards to see if I had a topic that was relevant. And then I was listening to that as I was processing what you were saying. That's weird.
What is this thing?
What is this thing?
What is it?
Get out!
Is that not like the most fascinating topic of all time?
Fascinating.
I'm 2 books that I'm on at the moment. Designing the Mind.
Okay.
And I can't remember the exact word that they use after, but it's like psychitecture. So it's like the psychological architecture of your mind and how you can influence and shape that. And the kind of metaphor analogy that they use is that the mind is like a computer software, and you can essentially reprogram your mind to operate in a way that is going to be most productive for yourself. But that, say, how do I word this? There's like bugs in the software that oftentimes when we're experiencing negative emotions and things like that, or excessive negative emotion, how would you measure that? I'm not even sure. But that they're essentially these like bugs in the software, and you can reprogram those bugs to see more of the goodness in life and live a happier, more fulfilled life, as opposed to continually running into these like issues. And then another book is Psycho-Cybernetics.
Yeah, you sent me that as well.
I wish I came to that book sooner. I wish I had come across that sooner in my journey of reading books, because I feel like so many of the books that I've come to since then were based on this book. This feels like the root of a lot of the other ideas and books downstream of that. It's by a plastic surgeon from the 1960s.
Okay.
And essentially he was performing like plastic surgery on people. So he noticed over the years that someone would come in and say they had like a big nose, and their big nose was negatively impacting the quality of their life, in that they didn't feel confident, and when they didn't feel confident, that affected their interactions with other people, and that like affected their career, and then they became more like self-conscious of it. They stopped putting themselves in more and more social situations, and yada yada yada. And when a person had this surgery, it completely changed their self-image. So that like the main premise of this, his whole ideology is around like the self-image. And when their self-image changed, like their perception of themselves, they completely like transformed their life. They were able to communicate with people. They were way more confident day to day. They didn't experience negative emotions as much. Their career skyrocketed, so on and so forth. So it was like 90% of people experienced that. But then there was still a cohort of people who they got whatever thing that they perceived to be wrong with them changed, and none of their behavior or their lifestyle changed. And they would say that they still viewed themselves as having a big nose, and that people wouldn't like them and people looked at them weird because they have a big nose and yada, yada, yada. Even though objectively from his point of view, their family's point of view, the friend's point of view, that they have a perfect nose. They still viewed themselves, their self-image was that of someone who is like unlovable or they can't be communicated with, and that would then have this knock-on effect of their life. So then he started exploring, okay, there's something going on upstairs that is almost regardless of what is being changed physically. It is the self-image, it's the perception of the self that this person has that then alters everything downstream. And there's people who don't have a big nose at all. We're just using the big nose one as the reference. But they don't at all. But since they perceive themselves to, they have all these issues. And he was like, in an increasing amount, I was finding myself discussing with people what's going on in their mind rather than doing a physical surgery, because they don't need it. What they need instead is to address the self-image that they have. So that's one of the fascinating ideas. So this self-image and belief is basically like the invisible confines and limits to our potential. Because if you view yourself as a person who is unlovable and etc., you are going to start acting in a way that manifests that into reality. You're going to be more withdrawn in a social environment, which is then going to have a knock-on effect to the relationships that you have, which is then going to have a knock-on effect to the possibilities that you have in your career, which is then going to have a feedback loop into this self-image that you are someone who's unlovable and bad in social situations and bad and whatever. Obviously, that's the one context that I'm using, but it applies to everything.
Applies to everything.
I'm bad at maths. I'm bad at playing an instrument. I'm bad at whatever. Like you start absorbing the identity of whatever it may be, and that creates the invisible limits to what you could potentially achieve. So it's beginning to strip back the almost like invisible identity that you've created for yourself, your self-image, and expand the boundaries of what you view as possible for yourself.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
It's great. It's like giving me feelings of how else does this apply, even beyond the self, but it's also adjacent or like interconnected with the self, the scheme of the self. And it's of those barriers and parameters that are just set about in life. I'll use one in my own world, but I think everyone has things that it applies to, and I'm sure I can think of yours and thinking about everyone's. But say the route to get into clinical doctorates in Ireland is notoriously difficult. People don't get in if you don't have all this experience. If you haven't done these hours, you need to volunteer here, you need to do all this, you need to know this person, whatever. I bet there's some people who just get in. They just interview, they just apply, they interview. They have no idea about what people say. Like imagine I was homeschooled all this time, for example, and I somehow had the same level of experience that I have now. So yeah, forget homeschooled. But let's say I just was with people that didn't speak English or something. So I didn't even know what they were saying. I just did all the coursework and I applied, like get the interview. I wouldn't be interviewing in a way that I think I need to be shitting my cacks because I'm so lucky to have this interview and I'm barely going to get in. It's like, man, the people sat in front of me interviewing, as Alan de Botton said, they're going for a shite after this. They're going to sit down and have to wipe their arse. They're just people. They're just talking to me. Ideally, in my world, even those people will be super nice, and they're not bigging it up either. But the people that kind of sit on their high horse, man, they're just a little bit older than you, or they've just managed to get in somewhere ahead of you. It's like, this is just an interview. And also, just the way parameters work as well is like, it's difficult objectively. That doesn't mean we're not very capable, you know? So rather than viewing it as like this, like top of the mountain, and if I manage to get there, I'm going to be sweating, covered in mud, and I'm barely going to be able to climb. No, it's like, I'm just going to walk in, it's fine. You know? But so everybody has these things that when you view them as the impossible or the almighty or not for me or only those people get that. It's like that, okay, these like social things exist. I'm not saying they don't, but the more you almost like refine them and like cement them into the ground, of course you're not gonna be able to walk through the wall. Where someone who, they exist, but it's more like grass. And it's just like, they're just walking through it anyway. They're like, oh, Like,
Yeah.
we'll just come this way.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're kind of stuck behind your concrete. You're like, no. I'm telling you, this is too hard.
Yeah.
It's like, you
Yeah,
can.
you created it for yourself as well, and that ties into that idea of the words that we use. So this was another really interesting frame that I heard of. Say it was like a businessman who was in a meeting with two of his like business partners, and something bad happened, and all three of them had a different reaction. So one of them was absolutely enraged, the other one was angry, and the other one was annoyed. And that's how they represented it themselves. So that was the word that they used and the expression of the emotion. And this guy was saying, he was looking at the fellow who said he was annoyed, and he was like, what a stupid word. How could you only be annoyed in this scenario? And he reflected on it. He's like, I don't think I've ever even been annoyed in my life. I've only ever been mad, enraged. And he was like, okay, what if I changed the wording that I use? What if for the next week I committed to, when I'm experiencing this emotion, this flurry of sensations within me, I label it as I'm annoyed. And he started to notice that the expression of that emotion started to be more and more scaled down, like a lower level of expression, simply by like annotating it as something that is not absolutely enraged. You're simply annoyed. So the wording that you use for it alters the perception that you have of the situation and alters your expression and manifestation of that thing. So as you're saying, like getting into these like clinical positions is incredibly difficult. What if we didn't label it as difficult?
Yeah.
Would we then stop perceiving it to be something that is so difficult? Obviously it's something that requires a lot of effort, but if we label it as something that is manageable, something that is accessible, something that is doable, is that going to alter the way that we approach the situation and alter the way that then everything is experienced? I remember when I used to train in the home gym, and it was during like lockdown and everything, I used to, the way that I labeled it at the time, and I didn't even realize I was onto something, but I just noticed that it felt good, is I would like gaslight myself after a set. So I would take a set, and regardless of how it felt or how it moved, I would put it back in, and I would say to myself out loud, that was a great set. And
Like that.
just by saying the words to myself, even if I didn't believe them at the time, even if I didn't really think it, I started to experience positive emotions associated with doing good work.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yo, that was a great set actually.
Yeah, I gotta start doing that.
Simply by like saying the word, you then, and I've heard this referred to, I think it's called like auto-suggestion, which is basically consciously trying to like imprint ideas into your subconscious mind. So if you consciously repeat an idea enough times, it then starts to be the subconscious idea that you hold in the back there.
Yeah.
So if you, and I guess maybe other people would call it like positive thinking or like saying mantras and shit like that, but yeah, just consciously thinking a thought and consciously thinking it enough times that you've repeated it enough times that it starts to be absorbed into the back down there. So when you, that's crazy. But you come outside and you're looking at the sky and you're saying, what a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think it's a beautiful day, if you say what a beautiful day outside, then your brain will start journeying back there and be like, okay, let me start noticing all the things that is actually beautiful about this day. It's auto-suggestion. It's a fascinating idea that you can consciously think things that then makes you feel a certain way. So emotions are almost like they're always like associated with a thought. That's something that was really useful for me.
Yeah.
When you have like negative thoughts, that tends to stir up negative emotions.
Yep.
Can we, and this was in a book, I think it was called Feeling Good. It was a book on like depression and cognitive behavioral therapy and exploring how the majority of like these negative moods and emotions that people experience are the result of like automatic negative thoughts. I think they were labeled, and how there's like 10 cognitive distortions or whatever that contribute to this, like all or nothing thinking or overgeneralization, where one bad thing happens and we think we're destined to be a failure for the rest of our life, or personalization, something bad happens, so we take it as a personal reflection of ourselves, etc. So these negative emotions are the downstream effect of a negative thought. We can replace these automatic negative thoughts with like a conscious beneficial thought. That's something that I CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. I like a conscious beneficial thought.
Nice.
I like that one. I came up with that myself. Okay, so in 2,000 years they can quote Andrew Blackwood. All right?
Yeah, they'll be watching this in their mind. They'll have to connect to the laptop. Okay, go.
Like a conscious beneficial thought. Replace that automatic negative thought with a conscious beneficial thought. Do that enough times, and that becomes the automatic thought that you start having. And then that starts shaping your perception of reality. Reality is just your perception of it, and then your life becomes good.
That's really good. It's really good. But it is absolutely those downstream associations.
Yeah.
And yeah, emotions are typically tied to a thought. And it's so interesting. I think my mom used to do it pretty well of like, you know, what are you feeling? And like, what you're feeling this. But even then, it's really hard to do with kids because kids, I imagine, they don't have the language again. They don't know what it is they're even thinking. But I wonder, typically when I'm feeling negative, I do have thoughts up there. Someone asks you what's wrong. I don't know. You do know. You can root in there.
Yeah.
You can go rooting.
Yeah.
What where was the spark initially? Now it's a fire, but like there is some sparks. Or like what's burning, you know? It's interesting. I finished the book When the Body Says No.
Yeah.
Giving it to herself, and you should listen to it though. I'd really recommend it.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I've done that, yeah.
When was that?
I
remember you saying
a month or 2 months ago maybe.
Oh, damn. Yeah, really good though.
Yeah, fantastic.
I found it particularly interesting how towards the latter, like towards the end of the book really, he was pulling on a thread of when people are so avoidant of the negative thoughts, that's like conducive to being ill, because you're like almost avoiding reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a sign of like maladjustment almost. So people in like cancer studies, the ones who were more in tune with reality rather than forcing on that everything's good, everything's going to be okay, it's not that bad. Obviously there's a fine line, but he was basically saying the people who were completely devoid of like more like realistic thinking were sicker.
Yeah, it's almost like
and got sicker.
Yeah, there's something in there. I heard the explanation of what is it called? Like people who are the best or like the most well emotionally adjusted is when they experience the right emotion relative to the circumstance. It's not that they never experience negative emotion, that they're always happy and positive. It's that they express it in the appropriate way at the appropriate time.
Nice.
So if you are like grieving for someone, should you be completely just like a robot and not express anything? No, that would not be like very emotionally aware or emotionally well adjusted or properly emotionally expressive.
Yeah.
If you are, you've lost someone that you really care about, to be able to express the appropriate emotions adequately and then gradually work through them is proper like emotional adjustment. Rather than bottling that up or hiding that or avoiding that. That would be, that's what we should strive for. So again, that like idea of the impermanence and the highs and lows, and be able to express both of them, and that equanimity to have a sense of like peace or stability through those highs and lows, that you acknowledge that they are just part of the overall experience and they are necessary, and both are necessary. You can't have one without the other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know what the link was of you saying something that brought this up, but the podcast I was telling you about, how do you say his name?
Alan de Botton, I think.
Alan the Baton.
Alan the Baton.
School of Life, he was talking. And they were talking about a ton of stuff on Modern Wisdom, but he mentioned bullying.
Yeah.
And it got me on the train of thought, and the way I've come out thinking about it, probably mostly about what he said, but I'm sure my brain is just like twisted it a little bit. But when people are like typically these like young bullies, right, and school bullies, it's like their life, they've had to endure and grow up, and they are punished for being or existing in a certain way, for probably being young, for being chill, for being, present, probably. All of these things, unfairly punished by a parent, by a caregiver, by whatever's going on. And when they see someone who has not had to grow up, so he used the example of like someone whose mom still packs their teddy in their bag. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But they have had to grow up so harshly that they're not even allowed to have their teddies at home. I like, this person has to experience the miserable mood that I'm made feel. Because how dare they be allowed? Why are they allowed when I'm forced at home, when I'm forced into this existence where I have to act like I'm 18 when I'm 13 and they're still 13, And it's like that what that means is, as a kid anyway, is that I have to either accept that I just have it bad at home, or everyone has to have it this way.
Try to take from other people's cups.
Yeah.
That's a really fascinating idea.
It is.
That's very interesting. That's something that and I don't know if this fully links to it, but it created a thought for myself around when I'm in the car I find is like such a test of all this mental work that I think I'm doing. As soon as I get into the car, it's like I'm in the battleground, okay? It's like I've dropped into the arena, okay? I'm a gladiator in Coliseum. Okay, as soon as I get in the car, because people be testing your patience when you're in the car. It's like people entirely change their personality. But something that I find myself doing is never let myself get annoyed or like experience negative emotion when someone else is doing something nice. So are you ever driving and someone stops like in the traffic to let someone else out, even though you have right away and should continue going?
Yeah.
There would be times you're in a rush, you want to get to the gym, and someone stops and you're like, would you just go? Like, would you go? This is not how the road works. This is not like the flow of the road. You've stopped all this traffic to let someone through. And then one thing, I used to be like, why are you trying to be like a good Samaritan? Just keep driving and they'll get out eventually. I now, if I ever experience that, if I ever find myself getting frustrated or getting worked up, I will never let myself get annoyed about someone else doing nice. So if someone else has, like you're giving the analogy of like the children bullying.
Yeah.
If there's some kid who has a teddy or his mum has like made his lunch from, you can never be annoyed about something nice that is happening.
Yeah.
Never allow myself to be annoyed about something nice, because that is usually
that.
rooted in something like envy or jealousy or
lack of some kind.
Something that I am upset about within my own experience, and I'm projecting that onto someone else. So So I left the house too late, so I'm annoyed that someone is driving slow.
Yeah.
That's on me. That's the whole idea of like extreme ownership. I can't get annoyed about someone else driving that way.
Yeah.
When it's a reflection, I'm projecting my
just
own
because they're in a
unhappiness.
position that they have the freedom to do this doesn't mean that I have to be annoyed at them or inflict pain or bother.
Yeah. Hilarious. I don't know what this ties into at all, but it's just such a funny saying, and it's so reflective of like, I don't know, just the human experience perhaps. It's when you're in a car, have you ever noticed that anyone who's driving faster than you is a lunatic and anyone who's driving slower than you is an idiot?
That's funny. That's life though. Where people think everyone ahead of me is a lunatic. They've got their they're wankers, whatever. And then everyone below me is like, oh, you could stay down there. You know what I mean? People are interesting.
So if we can maybe detach from that idea as much as possible, that'd be a nice thing. Start treat people with kindness and empathy and understanding and compassion, and identifying when we are acting out of a place of like lack or
combine. Don't make assumptions. And in nonviolent communication, when you're trying to separate what you're observing with how something makes you feel, or what you're observing factually, but you can't make inferences about the mental state of the person, because unless they literally say, I am angry, you don't actually... Obviously, we pick up on these things, and we could probably do it non-verbally. We can probably pretty accurately detail how someone's feeling, but you also don't know what's going on. And especially the more removed, it's like go into like the car situation, you have literally zero idea what this person, what this driver is experiencing, where they're going, why they're going slow, why they're going fast, what they're thinking. Man. Yeah. But point is, the bigger point is, I love that idea of, rather than quickly making an attribution as to why someone's behaving a certain way, assumptions, taking things personally, trying to know why someone's behaving in a certain way, or even, to be honest, and I know this is annoying, and maybe I'm not perfect, I'm sure there are times where I don't take this on board, but just even when someone's not desirable, it's just kind of like taking a step back before saying like they're this, they're that. Just like, man, I bet there's a culmination of experiences that got them there to being someone that I don't like. I don't like them, but I feel bad.
Yeah. You can have like empathy towards them. I had a situation, I was leaving the gym 2 days ago. And I was so it's like a really small car park, and coming out of the car park onto the main road, there's lines of cars like parked on the street too. So I was reversing out, full car park, cars lining the street as well. And there was a car that was like pulling up towards the gym that stopped. I also saw on the other side of the road that there was a car that had just
Yeah.
turned around the corner and was driving up. So I'm in the car park trying to get out onto a main road.
Yeah.
And there's cars coming from either side. So I stop. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait until these cars have moved, and then I'll go when I can see properly, because you have like obstructed views on both sides. So I'm like looking around to see where the cars are going, and one of the cars is like indicating to come into the gym. Bear in mind, there's also room to like pull up beside me if you wanted. He starts laying into the horn, and I was like, what does this guy, like what's this guy's problem? What does he want? So I'm like, okay, I'll start edging out of the spot a little bit more. And I know there's a car coming from the other direction as well. So I'm not going to reverse into the road blindly when I can't see past cars, when I know another car is coming. So I'm reversing slowly, and this guy's laying into the horn. And bear in mind, I've maybe been here 15 seconds.
Yeah.
I get out, I see the other car has slowed down now to stop. I know where both the cars are. Now I can reverse out. So I reverse out, and the guy's shouting at me from his car. And I put my window down, and I was like, there's a car coming. I'm not going to reverse onto the road when I can see a car coming. And he goes, you could have fit a bus through there, you fucking idiot. And I was like, I can see there's a car coming. Well, you're a fucking dope. And I was like, what is your problem? Why are you so mad? Oh, fuck it. I was like, why are you so mad? And then he drove into the spot. The guy had to wait 20 seconds. And he's screaming, you're a fucking idiot, you're a fucking dope. Oh, fuck yourself. Crazy. Crazy to have that much vitriol about a situation that is so inconsequential. Your day was 30 seconds delayed, and leaving that situation before, I think I would have been like, man, that guy was such a fucking wanker, what a prick, what a dickhead. That would like stew in my brain for the rest of the day. But when I left, I was like, damn, I'm like, I wonder what happened in his day that led him to be so mad about having to wait 20 seconds to pull into a parking spot.
His life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What circumstances have contributed to...
Is there a concoction of circumstances that aren't awful that makes someone like that?
Because I can't think... If you're a happy, content person, you're not doing that.
As far as I'm concerned, no.
Yeah.
I can't find a way. Maybe he wasn't abused. Maybe he wasn't, maybe he didn't have all these extreme traumatic experiences that I feel like sometimes I imply. But I can't imagine living a amazing experience and having an amazing time upstairs is the big thing. So whatever's going on, I can't imagine in his head he's loving everything, loving himself.
And you know what? I feel bad for that. I hope he can get to a stage
I
where
hope he gets to a stage where,
and he doesn't spread that negativity to other people. Because I think that begets more negativity. Yeah. So I hope he can receive enough kindness in his life that he doesn't need to be mean to strangers.
Man. Also, even for his own safety, he's going to say that to the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's lucky you're just a chill guy.
He's just in that.
He's lucky you. He's lucky you like the season. You know what I mean?
I like the autumnal colours.
I'd say if he said
I'm listening to my How to Love books and
exactly.
Like that.
He's not listening to How to Love.
No, maybe he could do with some.
Say that he's not loving himself.
What's the guy's name? Thich Nhat Hanh. That's the guy who wrote a book that I'm listening to. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist monk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Man, Vietnamese coffee. What's going on there?
Never even had a coffee. Didn't know there was something specific about Vietnamese coffee.
Yeah.
What is it?
I just thought of when Theo Vaughn was saying if he had to eat someone.
He'd come down and be. He'd go down because they'd be more forgiving, man. That's what he said. He's like, they'd forgive you. I'm not co-signing that.
Just preface it. What did Jimmy Carr say? Something to do with joking, and he was like, maybe it's something along the lines of, if there's ever something to joke about, I don't know, scrap that. But it was something to do with because I've talked recently to a friend of mine about slagging and joking and the concept of humor. And have you heard much of this? It's like humor and joking and comedy is almost like a bridge to processing concepts that are touchy and sensitive and difficult.
Interesting, yeah.
Do you know what story is there? And then even your experience of like, say, you and I or friends growing up, like slagging each other.
Yeah.
Because on paper, you're kind of being mean.
Yeah.
But you're not. And there is a line.
Yeah.
And as an adult, you start to learn the line.
Yeah.
And I was kind of discussing this with my friend where no one could slag me about anything and hurt me I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty secure on all the things, good and bad, in my life. But it's what bothers me is actually when I know, when I can taste that the person is doing it with intent to hurt,
Yeah.
not intent to mess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's this is an interesting one, and this is one that maybe my thoughts like diverge on it a little bit, where I can understand that, and I think that like slagging is a very typical thing in like maybe in particular like guy friendships.
Yeah.
I don't know as much for girls. I don't think it happens as much in girls,
it does
but in guy
I'm sure
friendships,
there's a bit.
Yeah.
And
that would be very typical behavior
Yeah.
that you'd like absolutely rip the piss out of your friends.
yeah.
I don't know if I love that personally, and at least for myself,
Yeah.
I try to never do that to other people, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it in instances. It's not that I never like
Yeah.
poke fun at anyone or joke with my friends, but I think a lot of the times it can, even if it is like just in jest, I think people can remember the things that you say, and they can ruminate on things even if it's said as a joke.
Yeah.
There's oftentimes like an element of truth to jokes, and I think
Yeah.
I have found for myself the best way to navigate that for me, where I feel good, is to just not engage in that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we would slag each other ever, almost.
So I think I'm using slag as too broad a term. I think it's under the bracket of joking with each other.
Yeah.
And we joke with each other where the content is completely fictional.
Yeah.
As in, like, I'll say you like something or you're doing something that is completely plucked out of thin air.
And an example of this is I was in the airport. I can't remember where I was flying, but I was flying by myself. And there was a group of like guy friends. And there was a group of like 4 guy friends taking the piss out of another guy because his like hair was going. His hair was thinning. And I could tell through the conversation, he did not enjoy it. There was like 4 people slagging him because his hair was going, which is like something that he couldn't change. But it wasn't as though he was like laughing and joking back. I was like, this genuinely like does not seem like an enjoyable experience. This gives me like a uncomfortable feeling. I feel bad. I feel empathetic for this guy. And that's something I think I've noticed, that when there is slagging, that a lot of times there may be an underlying sentiment from a person, even though you all joke about it at the time. When you go home and you're just thinking about it by yourself, you're like, oh, but I don't know. This is something I've questioned. Am I just like a sensitive guy? Like, should I joke and slag more? But I don't think so. I don't think it's like super conducive to interpersonal relations to poke fun at people, in particular about things maybe that they can't change, appearance or like reflections of their character, things like that. I just always try to avoid that. I think you just have better, like imagine if all your conversations with your friends were building them up instead of slagging them and bringing them down. That's my kind of philosophy. And that's something that I would notice in our like relationship and friendship, is we are always building each other up. But then conversely, you'd look at, say, Nonso and James, and they're always slagging each other. They're always like swinging digs.
The drill video.
But they seem to have a fantastic relationship. So I don't know what it is about myself. Am I just like a sensitive guy? But I found in all of my relationships, when it is more centered around building another person up and not slagging each other, it seems to do well. And I've seen lots of times where people are friends and they slag each other, but it does have an underlying sense of a little bit of fuck that person when they've said something that hits a sensitive topic. So I think my approach is just generally not to hit on sensitive topics. And another one is, I don't know if it, how do I word it? Like from a coaching perspective, I'm always very particular about, or I try to be tactful about the way that I critique, because it is a part of the job where you are supposed to like give input and critique and analysis. And I have found more often than not, people don't like critique. Even if you have to try to be really open and receptive to it. And even when you are that way inclined, when you get critique, it doesn't feel nice. You are being like judged negatively by someone else. I think for like every single person, that is initially not a nice feeling. And then you can train yourself to be open and receptive and take the perspective that this person is trying to help me and so on and so forth. But I think that is an inherent like human thing. We don't like negative critique, and We don't like people poking out flaws
No.
about us, even if we are in a place where we can handle that in jest.
Yeah. There's balances to be figured out here, because I think it's like, what's coming to mind is when you're younger, it's like vaccination almost. It's like it's giving you doses from people you can trust.
Yeah.
And see, youthful friendships are often a little bit weird because people don't like, I've noticed, admitting this or using this term, but like they are convenience-based friendships. Like they are friendships formed out of convenience, and many of them are determined by the presence of that convenience factor, like school, that when removed, you would no longer maintain a friendship. And it's not that you always don't like each other, it's just that you are friends because there is a mediator. When you remove the mediator, it's not there anymore, and that's fine. They exist, and they're good friendships. A lot of them aren't, though. A lot of them are your peers. You're not friends. And so you remember this, where like a friend group could be 10 deep, 15 people deep, and the people on opposite ends of the friend group wouldn't like each other almost, because it's like you have things in common, but you're also taking things from each other and whatever.
I think there's an element there where you're trying to figure yourself out, and there's that like social hierarchy thing where you're trying to butt heads and see where you stand.
And it's seldom that someone of a young age is of a confidence or security that they don't compare to the social hierarchy. They don't judge where they are. And even as I came out of it when I was younger, and I was like coming, independent from it, you were still checking on it a little bit. And it was only a few years after that you would start to truly be free from it. But I'm just thinking back, and like there is absolutely times where slagging was actually insult disguised as joking, where a slag from a friend is a joke disguised as an insult. It's the other way around. It's like, let's say you're slagging me about a past experience or a failed lift or something. It's like, what's really happening is you're micro-dosing pain to me, but you're also going, I don't care. I love you anyway. Like, this doesn't matter. Whereas the opposite is, I hate this about you, but let's see if you laugh about it, because everybody else is going to laugh at my joke. And then I'm bigging myself up. So there are definitely both, and there's probably way more than just those two comparisons that I'm bringing up, but I'm trying to explore it, because
both sides of the
I'm likening joking and slagging to comedy, and it's like comedy is a bigger game altogether, and they're exploring topics where it's almost like they're trying to joke about them to dampen them a little bit, so they're more accessible or something, because some things are just so taboo that we don't talk about them. But slagging is very interesting, and there are times where, I can imagine, we don't really slag each other at all, but let's say there was something. When you're younger, it's like you're being exposed to people being mean, but it's okay because it's your friends. So there's one part of it. But then also, I think when it's a joke disguised as an insult, that's when it's fun. That's when it's like, I don't actually.
And you raise a really good point about any of the slagging that we have back and forth is almost entirely fictional.
It's fictional.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Because like during a podcast, like you'll make jokes and stuff, like at the expense of me, but we both know it's entirely made up. As opposed to when it is, like there is the element of truth to it. I think when there's the element of truth to it, and it has the potential to touch on a sensitivity or a pain point or an insecurity of someone, that's when it's a problem. And that's what I would always try to avoid then. Maybe that's the clarification. I would never try to make a comment that is like objectively about a person's character or appearance or something that they couldn't change.
And you also, when you are good friends with someone, and obviously there's, tiers of friendship that you can be really close all the way down to like you're just friends because you see each other every now and again, you will develop a calibration of how on a graph, how sensitive they are about certain things. And then you joke accordingly, all the way up to most sensitive, you probably don't joke at all. Where least sensitive, you're joking the most. And then halfway, you probably do bring it up. And you're trying to see how they feel about it. And I think joking is like a gauge. It's like, and sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you joke and then you notice it doesn't go down well. And you go, I didn't actually mean to. But then a lot of the time, and that's part of growing up, and that's part of life as well, I think. But it's like a gauge. It's like a litmus test of how are you feeling about this. You know?
I like that.
How are you feeling about that person? Then I notice sometimes as the conversation goes on, naturally, it will happen that, let's say you're starting to feel better about a topic, you can then laugh about it. Do you ever notice that? Like, you start a conversation upset, and then by the end of the conversation, they're trying to like throw jokes at you, like, you'll never talk to them again, or so, you know, stupid shit. That wasn't a good joke, but like something where it's like they're trying to make you chuckle about it, and it is trying to bring it from super sensitive, thorny, I can't talk about this thought, it hurts, to you can bring the thought into consciousness. It's okay. I'm here. I can joke about it. I don't care. You're still
can diffuse it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating one. That's very interesting.
It's an interesting topic. I've never really wrote it down
dug into that one before. I'd love to like reflect more on that and hear more opinions and angles and like takes.
I'm sure there's a bunch of like psych stuff on comedy as well, though.
Yeah.
I might look into that a little bit today, because there's something about comedy.
Yeah.
But also comedians, they're pushing it as far as they can, and sometimes they push it too far. Jimmy Carr's a good one, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see him ripping people in the audience, but for some reason it's like
crazy stuff about the craziest, literally the craziest stuff.
oh god.
But it does touch on something that is definitely a prevalent thought, or something that I've like consciously decided. Where, do you know when you're like, you've had a few drinks and you're talking to your friends and you're telling your friends how much you love them and how special they are to you, and like when your inhibitions are loosened a little bit, you're so expressive of like how passionately you care about your friends. I've had the thought of like, what if you just were like that all the time with the people around you and the relationships around you were always expressing like this positive sentiment? How nice would your life be? And that's something that I've tried to put in place. So minimizing even like the joke, slagging, and try to be as forthcoming with like positive expression as I can. Even like with my little sisters, for an example, like I used to slag the shit out of them, and somewhere along the line you become conscious. They're like 15-year-old girls. That's like a very formative period. I would hate to make a comment about them that I think is in jest, and that a few years down the line that they reflect on. Or that they like would harbor that in the back of their mind, or that would start to, and maybe it's from all the learning that I've been doing about how like the influence that something that someone says to you in your formative years, the influence that can have on your self-image and the idea that you hold of yourself in your mind. I would hate to say something to them who I like care about so much, I love them so much. I would hate to have any form of negative impact on them. So when I see them, I'm like, oh my God, you are looking beautiful today. Oh my, two beautiful young girls, amazing. You guys are so talented, you're so cool, you're so blah, 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 blah. Try to build them up as much as I can. That's something that I would love to do. Like imagine if all your relationships were like that and it was forming of that positive sentiment. How different would your life be? How different would your experience be? And then that positive sentiment is almost always reciprocated. How different would your life be if instead of putting out negative, because when you slag someone, what are they going to do? They're going to instantly slag you back. Like that kind of idea. You're going to, that maybe ties into be impeccable with your word, especially when it is coming from the angle of an insult disguised as humor. You're automatically setting up negative sentiment with this other person back towards you. They're going to want to reciprocate that towards you, which is harming yourself. When you're saying something nasty about someone else, that nastiness is going to come right back to you. When you're spreading love out to everybody else, what's coming back to you, brother? Love.
And man, bring it back to what you're saying about the language we're using and the things that we're thinking. If you are having someone else think positively about themselves, it's reinforcing it. It's becoming their thoughts. It's becoming, let's say they're not too sure of their teeth or fucking whatever people might be insecure about. Your smile looks beautiful. Smile looks beautiful. Eventually, the amount of smile looks beautiful is starting to grow. That flower is starting to grow. It's starting to grow taller.
Baby. Auto-suggestion.
And then the same thing for yourself as well. If you're constantly thinking good, if you're constantly looking for good in other people, start to look for good in yourself, start to look for good everywhere else.
Man, it's such a foundational idea. And I think the sooner you can start to implement that in your life, the longer scale benefit that you get from it, the more it will compound over your life, and then the more that becomes ingrained as a habit.
Another one that this ties to is I'm specifically thinking about, say, romantic partnerships, because I think they're probably the most difficult partnership to maintain. Some people might say like familial relationships or whatever. They're complex too. But say a romantic partnership where, you don't even have family technically to keep you connected. It's just your guys' desire to enact a partnership for the rest of your life. And people obviously we're talking, so many people split, so many people divorce, and I think what starts to happen is this is the last time, because we're probably coming to the end anyway, so hopefully it's the last time. It's the last time I'll call back to that podcast, but I just took so much from it with Alan Baton or whatever.
Alan Baton.
The Baton. They were talking about how at first you get the face of someone that they want to portray.
Yeah.
So like in romantic relationships, they're showing you all the good things in order to appease you. And as the years go on, this happens in every relationship, but just let's double down on the romantic. As the years go on, you feel like you are less compatible, you're growing apart. What's really happening is you're just knowing them more. You're knowing them more and more and more until like 7-8 years in, you're really knowing them and the facade is completely gone. And so people split at that point, and then they get with a new person who is amazing. That new person is just amazing because you don't know them. And then you know them 7 years in, and it's like, you are so annoying. Only because you're not looking to... You are incongruent because congruency is active with a person. You know, you need to not force congruency, but you need to work at it. If you just exist, you guys are so different. You guys have lived very different lives. You have two different brains. Is if you really take all the curtains down, you're not the same at all. You're only congruent at the start because you both play the same, you know, you both play the fiddle. It's like in 7 years, that fiddle is not connecting anymore. You know,
convenience relationship.
Yeah, the convenience is gone. And anyway, everybody gets to these stages, right? So let's say you get to the stage and you're now really knowing each other, and there's almost a decision to be made. And that's what I mean, that curating congruency is an active process. You can now start to lean into all the positive things, start to say good things about your partner. In like, okay, I'm imagining my wife, right? I want to, instead of, I don't like the way my wife does that, and now she's pissing me off, and now I come home, she's not doing what I want her to be doing because I'm tired, and now I don't want to say that because I'm tired, and my ego doesn't want me to like ignore that and tell her she looks nice or whatever. Fuck all that. Lean into all the positive things. Obviously there are things to work on. Obviously there are boundaries. Obviously there's appropriate and inappropriate behavior. But people start to lean so far the other way. But imagine if you could constantly be saying nice things, reinforcing the good things, reinforcing the love, reinforcing what you want them, what you genuinely want them to experience in their life. Man, people just don't do it.
How different
people don't do it. Yeah, it's an active process. I think I figured this out a few years ago, and we've talked about it with other close friends about romantic partnerships. It is very much so active. You know, there are forces that pull people away in every means, and there's also forces that get between them, as in, you know, like that you're starting to know things about them, you're starting to see behaviors that you don't love. It's like, man, you need both of you, but you need to be trying to pull together, not looking at, oh well, there's a magnet over there, you know, there's a magnet here, or there's a divide now between us. It's like, push them all away. Push them all away.
And I think that's one of the powerful ideas, is you have the ability to do that. You have the power to enact that. You can consciously decide that. You can consciously look for the positive things. Like, you can make that decision. Like, there will always be, like, it will always be present that the good and the bad is there. You just experience what you choose to put your attention on. Like, you can choose that. That's maybe the essence of it, is you have the choice of what you give your attention to. That is a decision that you make. One of the really like powerful phrases I've heard for this is, if I tell you to like find as many red things as you can around this room as possible, you'll start noticing it everywhere. And the likelihood is you might even start seeing some stuff that's kind of orange, or even like a little bit dark orange. You're going to call that red just to fit in with that belief and parameter that you've been given. So if you are looking for a specific thing, you will find it. So maybe that idea. It is a decision. It's always a conscious decision. You have the power within your mind to focus on whatever you want, and that will begin to foster, and like that will compound and grow the more you give attention to it. And then that shapes your whole experience around you, and there is no objective reality. It is simply our perception of it. You don't experience life, you experience the life you focus on. That was a good one.
Man, cut people some slack. Cut your partner some slack, cut your friends some slack. Cut people you don't like some slack. No one's perfect. Everyone's behaving, everyone's doing stupid shit. And
look for the beauty in the world.
Look for the beauty.
Spread that beauty. And now back to the end again. Wow, what a fucking, that was a stormer of an episode.
That was great.
Man, we were just back and forth. Wait, this gave me an idea. No, this gave me an idea. Wait, this gave me an idea. Oh, this gave me an... Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah, that was fun.
Man, I
Thank
really
you for that.
enjoyed
You got my brain juices flowing. Got all my juices
Man,
flowing.
all the juices flowing.
All my juices are flowing. I'm like a Capri Sun, man.
Oh
Let's get
my
that
god.
straw.
The couch is soaked. Right, on that note.
He's not talking about my side either.
Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Lots of love. See you in the next one.
See you next week.